So hi, Katie here again. Yeah, well, my friend sent me this tweet here. Um, and, yeah, so apparently J.K. Rowling has been off again on a kind of anti-trans tirade on Twitter. So I thought I would go and take a look at what she actually said. So yeah, so apparently she made these comments yesterday and early this morning. So yesterday was the 6th of June and today it's the 7th of June, and she was kind of making them at midnight as well, just past midnight. So JK says, if sex isn't real, there's no same-sex attraction. I don't understand that. If sex isn't real, the lived reality of women globally is erased. Huh? I know and love trans people. Yeah, right. But erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives. It isn't hate to speak the truth. So she posted that at 11:02 p.m. on June the 6th, 2020. So that was kind of 11 o'clock at night. And then she posts again at 12:09 a.m., about 9 minutes past midnight, on June the 2nd, which is now June the 7th. And she says, the idea that women like me, who've been empathetic to trans people for decades, yeah? Feeling kinship because they're vulnerable in the same way as women, i.e. to male violence, and of course, as trans people we aren't. Hate trans people because they think sex is real and has lived consequences is a nonsense. So again, a complete lack of acknowledgement that transgender females are transgender females and transgender women and girls are subject to male violence also. And of course she doesn't even mention trans men or non-binary people, so yeah, complete total sort of ignorance on her part, or maybe a willful kind of ignorance. And then she tweets again then a couple of minutes later at 12:16 a.m. I respect every trans person's right to live any way that feels authentic and comfortable to them. You could have fooled me, JK. I'd march with you if you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. If you were discriminated against on the basis of being trans. We are discriminated against on the basis of being trans all the time, all over the world. And we also march, so why aren't you marching with us? If you're such a big trans ally. At the same time, my life has been shaped by being female. Yeah, but so is ours. I mean, we're women. We're trans women. We're not cis women like you, but we're still women, and we're still female. We're still trans women and girls like cis women and girls. We go through similar things, if not all. I do not believe it's hateful to say so. Well, I mean, a lot of these groups that you're supporting and individuals, JK, are actually hateful, because you should really see the way that we're treated on Twitter and online generally and in the British press as well, by, you know, governments like Donald Trump's administration in the USA, which the UK seems kind of keen to emulate, with Liz Truss's latest kind of pronouncements about the way that she's going to protect single-sex spaces from people like me, and she's going to deny medical treatment to transgender children, you know, so yeah, I mean, and I've made a list here of the things I wanted to say, because it does, I mean, there are quite a few things in those tweets that really annoy me. I mean, like for instance, this idea that she's been empathetic to trans people for decades. Well, excuse me, but I don't seem to remember you shouting out so loud when trans people were being sacked from their jobs by employees for simply for being trans, for coming out as trans in the workplace, and then being handed their P45 and told to get out the door because they're embarrassment to clients or whatever, you know, just because we happen to be trans, which is all an excuse for them being, you know, it's wrong, you know. I mean, you weren't speaking out against that, you know. I mean, it's only been like a decade or so since employers were not allowed to do that, and it became illegal for employers to sack us for being trans, and it became kind of unfashionable as well for them to do it, and now it's fashionable for them to all be at the pride parades with their kind of flying the pride flags and stuff and saying how much they support LGBT employees, but it wasn't always that way, and this has only been a recent thing as well, and we were forgotten about for so long. And I mean, as well, like I don't recall her. Where was J.K. Rowling? Where was J.K. Rowling's voice when transgender children? Because she's a children's author, and she was looked up to by generations of children for the Harry Potter books, and now they feel betrayed. But where was she when trans kids were being expelled from school for you know, not conforming to the dress codes of the sex they were assigned at birth? I mean, where, for instance, was she when trans girls were going into school with long hair and being told they had to cut it all off, you know, and look like a boy, otherwise they would be kicked out of school, which resulted in many of them either having to, you know, cut all their hair off and pretend to be a boy for like almost 20 years of their life, or lives, or being, you know, just saying, I can't take any more of this, I have to leave school, and not getting an education. You know, where were you then? You know, where were you when, you know, for instance, like, well, where were you, you know, when the media, you know, the tabloids are still going on about trans people? Where were you back about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, when Lucy Meadows, a primary school teacher, was outed as being trans by the Daily Mail, I think it was, and she was then relentlessly pursued, and basically there was a media witch hunt against her, and the reporters were all outside the school, and they were questioning parents and saying, oh, do you know you have a transgender primary school teacher at the school, and all this, you know, and they were making out that it was you know, she would be harmful to children in some way just because she's trans. Where were you when that was going on? Why weren't you speaking out against that if you've been empathetic to trans rights for decades, to trans people for decades? Where were you? Where were you, JK? You know, I mean, Lucy Meadows, sadly, she took her own life shortly afterwards, and like there were loads of people like Lucy Meadows who the media were demonizing just because they were trans, and they happened to be in a certain job and they came out at work as trans, and then it was media headlines, you know. And now they can't do that, so they're resorting to making up rubbish about us being predators, when it's overwhelmingly cisgender males who are predators, but they're derailing feminism by saying, oh no, it's, you know, by concentrating on another group of women and girls just because we happen to be trans. So where were you then, and how can you pretend and sort of sit there and call yourself a feminist when you're doing this, you know, when you're actually derailing feminism and doing exactly the opposite of what feminism is supposed to represent, i.e. women of all backgrounds sinking their differences and uniting together against gender oppression? You know, where were you? You know, why are you doing this? I mean, like, I'm referring back to my notes here because you know, I do get lost when I'm speaking, and I'm not very good at presenting these things at all, as you can tell. But, I mean, like, there's so much in a tweet that's kind of wrong. You know, there's so much in there which is assumed, and like the assumption that trans women and girls aren't subject to male violence, like the assumption that we don't go up and, you know, and aren't discriminated against, you know, and we're we're not paid 20% less than because we're female, because we are. Loads of us are, you know. I mean, I work for a very good company. I'm very lucky. I'm not, but I know there are loads of trans women out there and transgender girls who are discriminated against, and you know, and I think it's terrible. You know, I think it's absolutely terrible. And where's J.K. Rowling? You know, where is she? Where is she then? Why isn't she speaking out against this? Why isn't she speaking out against the all the people in America, like, you know, the black transgender women, you know, who are being murdered all the time, you know? And I mean, it is mostly black transgender women who are being murdered. And why isn't she speaking out against that, you know? I don't, you know, as I said, I take it with a pinch of salt that she is a trans ally, you know. If she's going to say that, but don't dare insult our intelligence by claiming to us that you're a trans ally, because you're not, JK. What you are actually is a Karen, a typical Karen, and I would say like you're like a hyper Karen, a super Karen, I would say. I would say J.K. Rowling is super Karen. I would say that, you know, because she exhibits all the characteristics of a Karen, definitely, you know, and yeah, so that's all I wanted to say, really. I mean, it's, yeah, and please tell me what you think below. Thank you for watching this video, but please tell me, you know, if you disagree with me or if you agree with me, please tell me what your thoughts are on J.K. Rowling and her latest load of tweets, and whether you think she's transphobic or not. Because some people have claimed that she isn't, but, you know, I'm inclined to think that, well, you know, you've heard my views and you've heard what I think. So, yeah. So anyway, take care, everyone, and it's not my last video. I will continue with this channel, and I love you all. So please take care and stay safe. Cheerio.